Good evening, I'm Anna Jabłońska. Welcome to Poland Daily. The Polish Parliament sat on the project of the bill concerning the lowering of excise on electricity. The government of the Law and Justice Party tries to keep the electricity prices at the same level as in 2018. But at today's sitting, it became clear that there is still need for further amendments to the project, which led to a heated debate in the Parliament.
Lowering the excise on electricity from 20 to 5 zloty and reduction of the interim payment by 95%. These are the solutions proposed by the government. At today's special sitting, Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki called for further amendments, as it turned out that the reductions of the excise and the interim payment may not be enough to keep the prices steady for 2019. There are also plans for investing 1 billion zloty on the National Ecological Investment System. The opposition criticized the ruling party for the sped-up procedures. Only today there were 3 readings and 1 self-amendment. Now the project of the bill will go to Senate and after that on the President's desk, where it will await Andrzej Duda's signature.
How much did the electricity prices rise during the rules of the Civic Platform and the Polish People's Party between 2008-2012? By 50%. The energy prices went up by 50% for regular households. How dare you not take responsibility for what you did yourselves? About the responsibility for previous years, Mr. Prime Minister, today you suddenly realized, you suddenly got enlightened that raising the electricity prices by a couple dozen% on the election year is not such a great idea. Hence you're proposing a bill, but a bill that will only work for the year 2019. After that, you don't care, it might get expensive. It's yet another lie coming from you about energy. It's you who are responsible for the rise in electricity prices. It's the effect of the 3 years of your rules.
Wasza wina 3 lat waszej działalności.
The bill will come into force on January 1st, 2019. Even though Poles shouldn't feel any changes in the electricity prices, experts remind that the solutions proposed by the government are only temporary.
38 judges from Krakow sued Tomasz Sakiewicz, the editor-in-chief of Gazeta Polska Weekly. The judges felt offended by the words of Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki, which were published as part of his interview in the newspaper.
The editor-in-chief of Gazeta Polska Weekly, Tomasz Sakiewicz, was sued by close to 40 judges of the regional court in Krakow. The case concerns the content of an authorized interview with Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki. When addressing the situation around the Krakow court, the head of the Polish government called it, quote, an organized crime group. The judges of the Krakow Regional Court demand a retraction from Tomasz Sakiewicz. None of the judges who sued me were mentioned in the text. None of them even works in the said court. They are just judges from Krakow, and they think they can sue an editor-in-chief of a newspaper, drown the case in garbage. This is a terrible attack on the freedom of speech in Poland.
No to jest potworny atak na wolność słowa w Polsce.
Many fans of the newspaper and activists from the Committee for the Defense of Democracy showed up in court.
If I were to write, and I quote, that the lady from Republika is an old thief, end quote, and don't retract it, then it is not my statement, it is a statement of Mr. X. Additionally, since it is not a legally binding quote, I cannot do that, right?
I guess you could, there is the right to quote.
Right, I am not very fluent in press law. I don't really know how it works.
It is atrocious, absolutely horrendous. They are defending the constitution, the one from 1953, the Moscow one, certainly not the Polish constitution. During the court case, attorneys of both sides said their closing arguments. The statements came from 2 judges representing the complainants, as well as the defendant, Tomasz Sakiewicz. The court case ended today. Tomasz Sakiewicz does not intend to stand down. The sentence will be announced on January 11th.
The Krakow court ordered the German television ZDF to apologize in connection with the broadcast of the series Our Mothers, Our Fathers. The apologies are to appear on Telewizja Polska and ZDF. According to the verdict, before each episode of the series, there will be information about the fact that the characters are not real and the Poles during the Second World War helped Jews while the Germans occupied Poland.
This matter, led by attorney Monika Brzozowska, PhD, had a very peculiar degree of difficulty. We no longer had to deal with the false news, a journalistic lie with so-called Polish concentration camps. Here we have a movie, a work of art where the freedom of expression is very important. The court had to decide where the freedom of expression ends and where a brutal lie comes into the picture. The lies defamed the 94-year-old veteran of the underground Polish army and his fellow soldiers, which fought the Germans during the Second World War. The battle is not over yet. We will have an appeal, where we will fight for the truth. Next, we have to fight for the cause in Germany, because the verdict calls for publication of an apology in German media, and we have prior examples that the ruling of the Polish courts are ignored in Germany. So we won in court, but we still have a battle ahead of us.
Russia has finished building a high-tech security fence along annexed Crimea's border with mainland Ukraine. The fence is more than 60 kilometers long, topped with barbed wire and has hundreds of sensors.
Russia completed construction of a fence in annexed Crimea on the border with Ukraine's Kherson region on Thursday, December 2nd. 60-kilometer fence now separates the peninsula from continental Ukraine. Russian Security Service officer Alexander Surkov said the new fence will help to prevent possible border violations. Ukrainian Border Service spokesperson Andrei Demchenko told Reuters that the building of the fence served propaganda purposes and that the barrier had been erected to demonstrate security strengthening. Russia annexed Crimea from Ukraine in 2014, drawing sanctions and prompting a deterioration in ties with the West.
Thank you for watching Poland Daily. Coming up next, Aleksander Wierzejski and his guest, Poland Daily Travel, Culture and History. Good night.